All right. All right. We are here, first night of the Republican convention, for the Bulwark live stream of the Republican convention. Joining me now, hydrating for the live stream, is Joe Perticone. He's actually on site in Milwaukee for us, so he's going to give us a little sense of what's going on there. And we also have the one and only Tim Miller, who graces us with his presence tonight. And hopefully down the road we'll have A.B. Stoddard once she resolves a few technical difficulties. So, fellas, let's just set up the night. I should introduce myself. I'm Sam Stein. I will be your host for the evening. Let's set up the night a little bit. We're going to have about 10 to 15 minutes of chatter. Then we're going to kick it to a live stream of the convention itself. And then when it gets done at roughly 10:30 or so Central Time, that's 11:30 Eastern Time, we will pick back up for a post-game analysis type coverage. But let's just set the scene. Joe, you're there. Tell us what the day has been like up to this point. Oh, yes, A.B. has joined us live and in the flesh. A.B., so good to see you. I'm so glad the tech issues are resolved. Just to catch A.B. up, we are going to have Joe set the stage for us about what he's seen on the ground in Milwaukee and how the night has progressed so far.
So basically, like, the entire city center of Milwaukee is gated off in these giant gates, and there's police officers from all over the country. They like bring in extra cops, and they're all in their uniforms, like they're playing in the Pro Bowl, like they still have their team helmet on, and they're just kind of like at all the corners and all the perimeters, so it's secure. This is how every convention is. But once you get inside the actual perimeter, it's like a little village of Republicans and different Republican activities. Though I did spot a vegan barbecue stand, so
was it being patronized a lot by the convention goers, or was that one kind of empty?
I didn't see anyone there, but
yeah, not really the smartest.
They're going woke.
Capitalism at that point. Tim, let's talk about sort of the macro elements that have preceded this. God, where to even start? There's like 3 or 4 massive storylines.
Can I start with JD? Let me start with JD. I know you're the host.
Let's go in reverse chronological order, I guess. JD first.
Yeah. The JD thing is, I think, extremely significant, in part for governing reasons. If Donald Trump is going to govern, JD is a huge shift in the party permanently towards a more MAGA, nationalist, isolationist worldview. It's something that we've all known has been coming for a while, if you're watching the Bulwark feed, but it's I think, an important inflection point for cementing that. I think that on the campaign side, though, look, especially at tying all these big storylines together, especially after the attempted assassination, especially given Donald Trump's lead in the polls, there was maybe a view that there was a view even coming out of some people from Trump world over the past couple of days, that maybe this was an opportunity to send a signal of unity, to take down the temperature. Maybe he could even get a big, huge electoral landslide by, anointing a VP that's more of a unity pick. I mean, some people were even floating Nikki Haley today, which is obviously absurd. And he did not do that. He doubled down on MAGA with JD Vance. He went with the person that had maybe the most irresponsible social media post of anyone in public life following.
Why don't you remind people what that was?
Yeah, following the attempted assassination. He said that the Biden campaign wanted this. I don't have it in front of me, but this is what the Biden campaign wanted, to literally escalate and blame this before we knew anything. Obviously, there's no evidence of that today. There's going to be no evidence of that ever, but there's no evidence that the shooter at this point even liked Joe Biden. We don't know. So to escalate that yesterday, that was in stark contrast with what some of the other people in contention said. They were much more muted, the Burgums of the world. And so I think it's very telling about the fact that, no, we're going to continue to get unadulterated MAGA, both in campaign style and in policy, even if they soften the edges a little bit over the next couple of days.
So I hear you, and I think that makes sense. I guess A.B. then why do it? Like, you could round the ticket out theoretically, right? I mean, if you're Trump, you may want to appeal to other voters who are not of your ideological ilk, who aren't MAGA pure. You might want to round out, take it by picking a female. Obviously, that was not going to happen. So why pick Vance?
Because he wanted to, like Tim just described, right? He picked but he was going to have to pick Marco Rubio or someone if he thought it was going to be a close race. He has decided he's confident he can win,
Right.
and he wants to kind of permanently cement Trumpism with someone like Vance, who is of like mind, who will never flinch. We've talked about Rubio, right? Rubio was someone who would have stepped into this, but you could see in his face, you could see in his eyes these last few years how much it bothers him that he has sold his soul. He's nervous when he's on TV in the deep stakes run up on the Sunday shows, which JD Vance never missed. He would answer the questions, and if you read the transcript, it sounded like he was a really great Trumper, but you could see it in his face. And so that was the pick.
Well, can you give us a Marco Rubio facial expression?
I'm
like?
not really good at it. I don't have the ears.
You don't have
the
the
thing
ears.
is, you could see that was the pick. The Spanish language commercials. That was the guy you picked if you needed to reach, those swing voters that you really thought were going to close the deal. Trump has decided that he could have had Don Jr. I mean, he decided he was going to win, so he picked a guy that makes him feel good and is through and through a yes man, but young enough to really sort of not really be a threat like Rubio would have, in my view, to be an excited 39-year-old in Trump's wake. There's just so many reasons why I can imagine it makes Trump feel.
I don't know. I would have gone with Ivanka if I was having to choose the children.
Yeah.
Right?
Just really quick on one more thing on the JD, on the policy side, on the real ramifications of this.
Sure.
Is JD was, in a way that Marco was only half-assed, is fully with him on abandoning Ukraine, was fully with him on Stop the Steal, election lies, and was fully with him on, not really fully with Trump, but even to Trump's MAGA right, crazy right, whatever you want to call it, on vaccines. It's like on the three big kind of issues where, the party is taking a huge step away from what traditional conservatism would have been. Like JD was all on board with all of those. So I think that the relationship with Don Jr., this is like a loyalty MAGA pick. Maybe they convince themselves he helps them in the Rust Belt, where his polls are the weakest right now, compared to the Sun Belt primary states. So he's winning, but he's doing less.
But JD did not do that particularly well in the Senate race.
So maybe they convinced himself of that, but I don't think that's it. I think it's pure loyalty and pure.
And this is obviously I don't think it's much of a downside, but the downside is like you can just reread any 2016, 2017 quote from JD on Trump, right? Like comparing him to Hitler, right? That you can imagine a future where the Biden campaign just basically plays old JD Vance clips of him talking about Trump, and that's the downside. But I don't think that actually matters to voters. And I guess Joe, like, does anyone care at the convention about that stuff, or is it just kumbaya?
No, then no one cares. I was talking to a handful of delegates on the floor in the lull between speeches earlier, and they were just like not focused, didn't want to talk about it, and so I moved on. One of the things too about Rubio on the policy side of things is, until recently, Rubio wasn't acting like he was going to even be considered for VP. So he was doing things like he co-authored the bill purely targeted at Trump to prevent a president from unilaterally withdrawing from NATO.
Yeah.
And, you wouldn't be doing that if you didn't think I have this lifelong path to get closer and closer to Trump. It's only in the past.
Do you think Rubio sort of knew that he was being played like Romney was, strung along for Secretary of State? It always felt that way to me. Like Rubio understood that this was part of the ritualistic humiliation.
I don't know.
No?
I feel like if you knew, you wouldn't go along with it. But
yeah, I think
you think he thought he had it?
Yeah, look, all these guys. I wrote in my Vance article today. Like the ambition here is what is driving everything. Like there's no need to psychoanalyze anything else. And eventually you look at Trump, and if you've convinced yourself, like Marco has, that Trump is going to leave, and that these threat to democracy talk is all just liberal nonsense,
right?
You convince yourself, okay, I'm the next guy. then it's me. I'm one step away from the Oval Office. I think Rubio wanted it. I'm curious, Joe, what like the vibe of the delegates. Has the delegate turnover gone full MAGA? Like, because I was thinking, like in 2016, obviously there were some delegates that hated Trump, and then in 2020 it ended up being the White House sham convention. So I'm curious, like, what the delegate vibe is compared.
So I spoke to one delegate from Delaware. I'll have more in the newsletter tomorrow about her. She was very specific about not wanting.
Very good tease there, Joe.
She didn't want retaliation. She didn't like the idea of legal retaliation, which was surprising because every other person I had spoken to was, this is the most united Republican convention I've seen. I was on the ground in Cleveland in 2016. It was not divided. Mike Lee was screaming himself hoarse back then, trying to stop Trump. Saw him today, and he had a big grin on his face, like walking through the crowd. And so I think that they're very united, not just because of the events that have happened recently, but also because like Trump has purged a great deal of dissenters from the party, or scared them to the point where they're not going to come to this convention.
Well, A.B, pick up on that and also talk about a little bit how looming over this, like, quite literally an assassination attempt on Trump 2 days ago has really impacted the tone of the entire campaign, especially the convention.
Well, we're yet to see this new toned down Trump, right? He's potentially benevolent. Those are the words I read this morning. He knows that he has this moment, right, where he's an object of sympathy, which he's never been. It definitely united the party. Suddenly Nikki Haley was on the roster as of Sunday, the morning after the shooting, to speak at the convention. So it made everyone, any Republican who's not comfortable with Donald Trump but was playing the part, is now feeling the rapture. Even if they're not really a member of the MAGA sort of cult base, they feel like this guy, he got right back up. He's a leader. He's so strong. The iconic photos, so people can feel good even if they're skeptics and they're just playing the part. And then you have the beloved throng, the throngs who are there, who totally adore
There's
Trump.
going to be so much of that hagiography at this thing.
right,
Tim
man.
Scott was already doing
Tim
that.
Scott,
He was the lion.
Exactly. So we'll see. We saw a truth from Trump today that was right back to witch hunts, and basically he's telling people, he's lying to people that Joe Biden has prosecuted him. So he's
the
not
best
gonna
part of
take
tonight
the
so
temperature
far,
all the way back. But I think that what the reporting shows is that Trump has asked staff to ask the speakers not to lean too hard into how the Democrats created a landscape where the shooting could happen.
Well, and the best part of tonight so far has been Ron Johnson accusing Democrats of being a clear and present danger to the country, their policies, and then subsequently saying his old speech had been loaded into the teleprompter, not the revised new one that had unity themes to it. So they are trying to balance this a little bit tricky, I suppose. Blame the teleprompter person. What do you imagine, Tim, for Trump and Vance's speech? Like, do they actually stick to this more reconciliatory script? I doubt it.
No. I mean, they've shown some savvy, right? Like, you could have imagined a real kind of worst case bloody shirt waving. We're going to vengeance for Donald Trump. We've got to beat our enemies back, and they're vermin, and probably won't see that since it's in the teleprompter. But both J.D. Vance, one thing that he now models after his new boss and mentor is he gets a little hot on Twitter now. Like, he's popping off things. So no, I don't expect them to keep it in control.
And Joe,
a little bit less.
Yeah, Joe, is there like any tension in the air about that when you talk to folks?
Not really. A lot of the people were just kind of like psyched about this process and about making him the nominee. No one wants or about how he was blessed by God to survive. There is not a lot of appetite for talking about coming together as a country. It's about coming together as a party.
Right.
something together
I
for
guess.
Trump.
Yeah, and then I guess finally, like I know it's not the Republican convention, but you got to talk Biden a little bit. Lester Holt interview. He apologizes for saying he wanted to put Trump in the bullseye, but still says I got to make the case for democracy. Quickly, AB, because I want to kick it to Kristi Noem, who's going to come out here shortly. Talk to us about that interview, impressions of Biden in this moment, and just, I know you have some strong opinions about the matter, but why don't you let the Bulwark viewer in on how you feel about this all?
Yeah, I think that Joe Biden is on a tour to buy himself more time and convince people he can do this, and I think it's too late. I mean, I think that he was presidential over the weekend in response to an attempted assassination on his political rival. He did all the right things, but I don't think that he's leading his party. I think that his polling position is eroding. Trump is now almost out of the margin of error in his swing state leads that decide the Electoral College. And I don't think that Joe Biden's interviews and then his teleprompter, speeches and appearances in front of partisan stakeholders is changing the opinion of the elites in his party, which is that he's going to go down badly to Donald Trump, particularly in light of what happened over the weekend.
Yeah, it's Tim, Joe. Any thoughts on that? I mean, it just feels like Biden is.
I haven't seen. I'm sitting over here waiting to watch Lester. I'm going to ignore Kristi Noem and watch the president with Lester instead. So you can report back on how Kristi was. But I did watch in the Uber over here his interview with Speedy on Complex.
Morgan.
And it's just, again, it's hard for him to get to his message. We need vigor. We need an aggressive message. And that's kind of what's missing. They've got a month. There is a big gap to the Democratic convention. So that's the opportunity to figure it out.
All right, we got to go watch Lester and Biden. We got to go see if Kristi Noem talks about her dog during the speech.
Or her teeth.
Or her teeth. I'm more interested in the dog and whether she's killed any other canines.
There are a lot of dogs here.
Watch out for Kristi.
Interesting.
It's good to know, Joe. Thank you. Put that one in the newsletter tomorrow, too. All right, we're going to go to the live queue. Hey, folks, please come back and join us after this is all done, roughly 10:30, so Central Time, 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Tim will not be with us, I don't think, but AB and Joe will. Tim,
you shouldn't have told them that.
No.
I might be here. You never know. You want to come back to see, just in case. Bye,
all right, let's let them pick up the queue, and thank you all. Bye.
Our beautiful state. Now, all of the things that conservatives have always talked about, we just did it, and it worked. Our economy took off, and since I've been governor, we broke the national record for the lowest unemployment rate in American history at 1.8%. In South Dakota, everybody works. We paid off state debts and bonds. We fixed dams and bridges. We built roads. We have a fully funded pension plan and a AAA credit rating. We broke records for surpluses, and we balance our budget every single year. And last year in South Dakota, we passed the largest tax cut in South Dakota history. Under my administration, incomes in our state have gone up 36%. Women-owned businesses are thriving. We also have the highest birth rate in the nation. People are having babies because they're happy. And in South Dakota, we love babies. Our mental health challenges have gone down. Our suicide rates are declining, and we are the #1 state in the country for a decline in overdoses because people have hope. We're growing so fast that we needed more workers to catch up. So we launched the most successful workforce recruitment campaign in the history of South Dakota. And they have come by the thousands to join us and to live with us. Do you guys remember those ads when I was a really lousy plumber? and a really terrible electrician. Do you remember those? Well, since we started those ads, we have seen a 78% increase in licensed plumbers in the state of South Dakota. We've seen a 44% increase in electricians in our state. Now, people aren't moving to South Dakota for our beaches or for our beautiful January weather. They are moving to our state for opportunity and for freedom. And all of this happened because our people were bold. We took action, and I was strong. Now, South Dakota proved that freedom will make America wealthy again. And with President Trump in the White House, with Senator J.D. Vance by his side, we will prove it across America. Listen, 2 days ago, the whole world changed. Evil displayed itself in the very worst way, through a cowardly act. An innocent American lost his life, and we will continue to lift his family up in our prayers every single day. Prior to this week, we already knew that President Donald Trump was a fighter. He is the toughest man that I have ever met. Nobody has endured more than what he has gone through. They've attacked his reputation, they impeached him, they tried to bankrupt him, and they unjustly prosecuted him. But even in the most perilous moment this week, his instinct was to stand and to fight. Donald J. Trump is our man in the arena. He will never stop fighting for us. He will never stop, and now he is bringing all of us together. Now, I know that many of you are angry, but now is the time to unite. And we have to get to work. We have to win the hearts and minds of every single American. Wake them up with truth and with wisdom. We need to listen to them. You can't win people over by arguing with them. Visit with your neighbors, at your job, at your church, at the gas station, or even at the grocery store. Listen, there are moments in our history, often after great hardship and tragedy, when true leaders unite our country. At one time, President Lincoln, he united our country. He delivered my favorite presidential address of all time. In fact, it's the only speech or poem or song that I ever made my kids memorize when they were young, when they were little. It was the Gettysburg Address, and it was delivered during our nation's bloodiest conflict. That speech so inspired people that they continued to fight for years, and they lost loved ones in order to preserve this union we call the United States of America. Now, at that time, President Lincoln encouraged us to take increased devotion, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that a government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth. Like Lincoln, in the midst of our pain and division, Donald Trump is calling us to be touched by the better angels of our nature. As Paul wrote in 2 Timothy, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. We must not be afraid. Even in our darkest days, we have never once given up hope. So don't quit on America. If we lose this country, where else will we go that provides more freedom and opportunity for our kids and our grandkids? And I've got 3 grandkids, and I'm counting on a whole lot more. And yes, democracy can be messy, but there is a great invisible strength to a people's union. We have shown the world that we can endure sacrifice and that we can still unite. We should still aspire to be worthy of this union. America. President Donald J. Trump is the leader we need for such a time as this. So now, I need you to get to work. Get out there, go do it. Don't quit. Keep fighting, keep uniting, keep talking to people, win the hearts and minds, and may God bless you, and may God continue to bless the great United States of America. Thank you.
Donald Trump's surprise visit to a construction site. Hundreds of cheering union members turned out to meet the former president. It was quite a scene.
These are hardworking New Yorkers, okay, union members who have been working on this big construction site here in Midtown Manhattan near Trump Tower.
USA, USA, USA. I think these maybe were Democrats, but for me, they're a Republican. We built a lot of great buildings in the city with these people, and they've given me great support. They're very, very talented people. They don't get the credit for it. They have very few people can do what they do.
These union workers who are here to talk to the president are paying the price of failed economic policies currently in the country.
And you heard in New York City chants of "We want Trump."
We want Trump. We want Trump.
A lot of people are talking about how unusual it is to see so many Trump supporters in Manhattan at 4, 5, 6 in the morning. Does that surprise you?
No, absolutely not.
President Trump is leading Joe Biden 3-1 on my presidential poll out of my 9,000 members.
Trump's turn again.
What's your message to Joe Biden?
You. We're a very patriotic group, and we love our country, and we want the best for America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bobby Bartels Jr., Business Manager of Steamfitters Local 638.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bobby Bartels. I'm a proud member of Steamfitters Local Union 638. And like many of my fellow union members, I've been a Democrat my whole life. And like so many of my fellow union members, we have come to expect empty promises from Democratic politicians. In 1986, after a decade of Democratic politicians' mismanagement, Central Park's iconic Woolman ice rink had fallen into an unusable state of disrepair. Politicians made promise after promise to fix the rink, and yet they did nothing. That's when Donald Trump stepped up. He wasn't mayor, he wasn't running for anything, but he was a guy who cared about people, and he knew how to get a job done. He put his money and his reputation on the line and committed to getting it built. He did it using skilled local union labor like the men of Local 638. Together, we worked tirelessly on that project, completing it on time and ensuring kids would be skating that fall on that rink. And a quick note to President Biden, that involved working outside the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Early one hot summer morning on that job, I saw Donald Trump visiting the site. I yelled out, "Are you here to buy us coffee?" President walked right over. He wasn't the president at the time, but he walked right over, grinning, and handed me some cash and told us it was too hot for coffee. Go buy sandwiches and drinks for everyone. Now, more than ever, we need a president who knows how to get things done. We have an open border inviting illegal immigrants to take our American jobs and lower our wages. Out of control inflation is squeezing budgets and both violent crime and drug epidemic are pushing people out of our cities, all while Democrats do nothing. That's why this union Democrat will be voting Trump along So that's why this union Democrat, along with many of my local union members, will be voting Trump this November. So that we can take back the middle class, take back the country, and rebuild the middle class that my union has helped build over so many years. God bless America. Thank you.
Please welcome Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida.
Good evening, Milwaukee. You know, Milwaukee, we're on live television. You gotta let me get to the speech now. Thank you. I'm Byron Donalds, and I come from the great state of Florida. And I proudly represent the people of Southwest Florida. But I was raised by a single mother in Brooklyn, New York. Life was hard and we struggled. When I was in the first grade, my mother took me out of public school because she could see that public education was failing me. I needed to be challenged, and I needed the opportunity that only a private school could provide. My mother is an educator, and she truly believed in my potential. But Democrat politicians wanted to trap me in a failing school, but my mom fought for me. Mom, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you, Mom. Words cannot describe how deeply grateful I am to be your son. When I was in the 7th grade, my mom lost her job. We went on government assistance, and my grandma helped us pay for private school. My mom and my grandma sacrificed to ensure that I could build a successful future through a commitment to academic achievement and hard work. I'm standing here today as a result of their love, good and safe schools, and great teachers. And to the teachers of America who pour your heart and your soul into your students and teach the next generation to love, honor, and serve our great country, we all say thank you. But what about those kids whose parents can't scrape money together for private school? Don't those kids who grew up like I grew up deserve the same chance that I had? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris sent their kids to high-priced private schools. But since they are in the pocket of the far-left teachers' unions, they trap poor kids like me in failing schools with no way out. They say they're pro-choice, but not if you want a choice over what your kids are taught. Donald Trump believes every parent deserves a choice and every child deserves a chance. And in November, when Donald Trump is elected our nation's 47th president, we will make sure all America's children get that chance. Growing up poor, I know the pain of high food prices, high energy prices, and housing costs. I remember as a kid, my mom yelling at me, "Turn off that light, you don't pay the bill." We know there's a bunch of kids in America today who are hearing that from their parents. The massive inflation created by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris has only made it worse. During my first term in Congress, I served on the Budget Committee and the Small Business Committee. We told Joe Biden that his so-called American Rescue Plan was going to cause inflation. The Biden-Harris administration told us not to worry, but I knew better. I have nearly 2 decades of experience as a financial professional, and the evidence is in. Go to any grocery store, buy eggs, buy beef, buy milk. Even housing prices have skyrocketed. All Americans deserve a shot at the American dream. But under Joe Biden's debilitating economic policies, far many Americans, far too many of them, that dream has slipped away. This shows that we were right, that Joe Biden was wrong, and that you, the American people, are paying the price. As Americans, we've all been struggling. The disastrous results of the Biden-Harris agenda transcend race, religion, or income. But under President Trump, all of this will change. And if there was ever a time in our nation to come together, that time is now. With Trump, our economy will boom again. You will have more money in your pocket again. And your children will have a future again. Together, I know we will make America wealthy again. And together, America, we will make America great again. God bless you, Milwaukee. God bless the United States of America.
Please welcome business leader and host of the All In podcast, David Sachs.
Good evening, America. Good evening, America. I'm David Sachs, a legal immigrant who worked hard to achieve the American dream. Thank you. Now I'm concerned those same opportunities won't be there for future generations. As I look out at this convention, I see a party that is strong and unified behind President Donald J. Trump and his pick for Vice President, Senator J.D. Vance. And what about the Democrats? They're in disarray after shielding President Biden from a vigorous primary and gaslighting the entire country about his fitness to serve. We still don't know which puppet Democrat Party bosses will install as their nominee, but we know what their agenda will be. 4 more years of chaos and failure, both at home and abroad. In my hometown of San Francisco, Democrat rule has turned the streets of our beautiful city into a cesspool of crime, homeless encampments, and open drug use. Democrats, led by border czar Kamala Harris, have allowed millions of illegal migrants to invade our country. They tasked Homeland Security not with stopping the illegal aliens, but with busing them all over our country. Democrats have recklessly spent trillions of dollars of wasteful and unnecessary government programs, setting off the worst inflation since Jimmy Carter. But worst of all, the Biden-Harris administration has taken a world that was at peace under President Trump, and they lit it on fire. First, President Biden botched the Afghanistan withdrawal, displaying incompetence and weakness for the whole world to see. Then he provoked the Russians to invade Ukraine with talk of NATO expansion. Afterward, he rejected every opportunity for peace in Ukraine, including a deal to end the war just 2 months after it broke out. Now the war is deep into its 3rd year with no end in sight. Hundreds of thousands of people are dead. Hundreds of billions of our taxpayer dollars have gone up in smoke. President Biden sold us this new forever war by promising it would weaken Russia and strengthen America. Well, how does that look today? Russia's military is bigger than before, while our own stockpiles are dangerously depleted. Every day, there are new calls for escalation, and the world looks on in horror as Joe Biden's demented policy takes us to the brink of World War III. In the Middle East, America is now losing a war with the Houthis. And the administration's policy towards Gaza has been so incoherent that the only thing that pro-Israel and pro-Palestine protesters agree on is the chant, F Joe Biden. Rather than bolstering confidence in American leadership, as he promised, President Biden has become the symbol of an America in decline. This may be our present, but it does not have to be our future. We can replace the Biden-Harris cabal with a president who is strong and smart, rather than sleepy and senile. Or, in her case, clueless and embarrassing. A president who understands that you build the most powerful military in the world to keep America safe, not to play the world's policeman. A president who is willing to talk to adversaries as well as friends, because that is the only way to make peace. A president who will stand up to the warmongers instead of empowering them. My fellow Americans, we need a leader who commands respect and demands reciprocity from other nations. We need strength and savviness in the White House Situation Room, even if the crisis hits after Biden's bedtime. We need a president who can be president and lead, not a puppet controlled by his or her staff. We need order in our cities, order at our border, and order restored to a world on fire. My friends, we need President Donald J. Trump back in the White House. Thank you.
Please welcome women's advocate, Vanessa Faura.
Wow, you all look wonderful, beautiful from here. Look at that crowd. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, America. My name is Vanessa Faura. I was born in Peru, and my family migrated legally to the United States when I was 9 years old. Like millions of legal immigrants, my family didn't begin our pursuits of the American dream by breaking the law. We respected America, and we wanted to earn our citizenship. When we arrived in the Bronx, we lived on the 6th floor of a graffiti-painted building. Both my parents worked 2 jobs. At 18, I achieved one of my greatest aspirations. I became a United States citizen. I asked my father which party I should join. He said that we're Hispanics, we vote Democrat. But the more I learned, the more I saw that the Democratic Party didn't represent my values. Republicans did. I believe that the most important institution is the family, that the U.S. Constitution is the greatest document in history, and that every human being, born and unborn, is made in the image of God. Today, I'm proud to be part of an organization that protects the freedoms and opportunities of women across America. I've had the honor of meeting thousands of moms. Since Biden took office, I've heard one message from mothers from all backgrounds. The cost of living is making it harder to meet basic needs. Moms are reaching down the bottom shelf to just save 35 cents. Grandmothers who should be enjoying their golden years are working again to barely make ends meet. Under the Biden-Harris agenda, we're no longer living, we're surviving. It feels more and more like I'm back in Latin America. Under President Trump, Hispanics' unemployment reached record lows and our income reached a record high. To my fellow Hispanic Americans and to all Americans, if you believe in faith, family, freedom, financial stability, join me in voting for Donald Trump this November. Thank you, America.
Ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Kirk.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action. Together, the largest conservative grassroots organizations in the country. Thanks to our work, I talk to a lot of young people on campuses, at our events, on my radio show, podcast, and social media. Said differently, I visit college campuses so you don't have to. I hear a lot from young people about their hopes, their dreams, and their fears. You see, young people are idealists. They respond to vision. For the past 4 years, they've seen the vision of the Biden-Harris regime. That vision is you'll own nothing and be happy. The Democrats say, instead of owning a home, you'll rent a 400-square-foot studio apartment. Instead of owning a car, you'll rent a scooter using some app. Their vision is this: limit your dreams, give up, aim lower, be content with less. If you're a 20-something in America, life has been really tough. You've watched home prices rise 47% since 2020, 47%. Home ownership is now out of reach unless you make over $106,000 a year. Since I last spoke at the Republican convention 4 years ago, I've become a husband and father. In fact, we have 2 under 2. I think I get extra points for that. For millions of people my age, that is a dream that feels farther away than ever under the Biden-Harris administration. According to current projections, 1/3 of today's young Americans will never get married. The average American is having fewer children than ever before. Why? It's because for far too many, they simply can't afford them. The basic things our parents enjoyed are increasingly out of reach for Gen Z and millennials. You see, the American dream has become a luxury item for the wealthy elite. Happy countries have children. Broken countries have addiction, depression, and suffering. Democrats have given hundreds of billions of dollars to illegals and foreign nations, while Gen Z has to pinch pennies just so that they can never own a home, never marry, and work until they die, childless. Under Biden, our young people own nothing and they are miserable. Donald Trump refuses to accept this fake, pathetic, mutilated version of the American dream. When he was president, young people were richer than ever before, and he will do it again. Donald Trump is on a rescue mission to revive your birthright, one your grandparents and those before them gave everything to hand down to you. And listen carefully, everybody. This is why young men are the most conservative that they have been in 50 years. To all the Gen Zers watching this convention on TikTok right now, I have a message just for you. You don't have to stay poor. You don't have to accept being worse off than your parents. You don't have to feel aimless and unhappy. You don't have to support leaders who lied to you and took advantage of you for your vote. America's future is a series of choices. Our current state of slow motion national decline is a choice. This November, we're going to choose success. We're going to choose to put the future of Americans first. We are going to choose to no longer be spectators this election. We together are going to do the work to save America. We are going to choose to work harder than ever before, to chase ballots, to vote early, to register new voters. And all of us together, working harder than ever, we will fire the Biden-Harris regime and put Donald Trump back in the White House where he belongs. God bless you guys. Thank you so much.
From the very first day that we take back the White House from crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country, I believe that we're going to have 4 of the greatest years in the history of our country. I will once and for all secure our elections.
All right.
We're live again.
We're live again.
I
you
told
know,
you
I'm
I'd
a little
come
bit
back,
nervous.
just not
I'm a
at
little
11.
bit nervous because I think Trump might do a little guest appearance. But
Guest walkout. All right, we can
yeah,
keep
I'll
our
have
eye
to-
on that.
I'll keep our eye on that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. If he does, we'll just kind of let it simmer. But I wanted to get your take because it's important.
Thank you.
On
Well,
David Sachs.
Well, I hate David Sachs. That was, I think, one of the worst convention speeches I've ever seen.
No,
I was like
come
thinking,
on.
oh man, I was thinking back on some bad ones.
Clint Eastwood.
We love Martin O'Malley. Oh, Clinton Eastwood's a different level. I mean, Clint staring at the chair, but I meant just like the quality of the remarks. Bobby Jindal.
Okay.
Just kind of thinking back to people that you thought were hopeful might be good, and then it turned out were not good. I mean, David Sachs is a professional podcast host. He has a competitive podcast to mine.
Yeah,
It's called The
you're a
All In
little
Podcast.
biased here, man. Because
You think I'm biased because he's a competitor?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we have a lot of overlap in no Trump walking out there. It's Marsha Blackburn.
Okay.
I don't think we have a lot of overlap in audience. There's a few. We have a few people that overlap. Most of them are hate listening to one of us though. So you know,
I've long felt that Trump should come on your podcast.
I would love to have him, but no. David Sachs went up there. The substantive element that I think is noteworthy is that he blamed Joe Biden for the deaths in Ukraine.
Right.
He said that Joe Biden provoked Vladimir Putin, which is obviously horrific and wrong and nonsense. But outside of that substantive outrage, just he was very on David Sachs. Like you would think And he made a lot of money on the backs of Elon Musk and Peter Thiel's brilliance, kind of being a lower level person that had stock options at their companies. But you'd think that he would use some of that money for a speech coach. That's kind of stuff I used to do back in the day before I was a podcast host. Didn't seem like he used any of his money on a speech coach. So he was terrible. Charlie Kirk went up and gave a speech that was like almost interesting in a weird way.
Why was it interesting?
Okay, because it was not on message at all. And let me just say, since we last spoke an hour ago, I watched Joe Biden with Lester Holt, and I've watched like 4 speeches.
I've thoughts on Biden.
Okay, great. So we'll get to that. I'll just say on both sides, there's no message. I was criticizing Biden for a while, and I was saying at least Trump has a message. There's no message to this first night of the convention. Like it's all over the place. All of them are just talking about whatever they want. It does feel like they didn't come to a good conclusion for how to handle, like how to talk about the attempted assassination, which is maybe healthy, right? That there's not, again, like it could have been way worse. There's like everybody is in bloody shirt mode, but there's no message. The Charlie Kirk speech was interesting, like as a standalone thing, because his speech was more about like how millennials and young voters in this economy, don't get to have the house with the picket fence like their parents did, and the liberals just want us all to be on Lime scooters and renting. So it's an interesting critique of modern culture. I mean, not that interesting, but like more interesting than you usually get at a convention.
I got 2 things on this. So one is Kirk. Like, at what point does he have to give up the shtick of being like the young Republican college guy? Like, I feel like he's grown out of it at this point. It's been about 10 years of being the college guy.
As somebody that had a Snapchat show until recently, I feel like I'm on pretty unsturdy ground in leveling this criticism, but go ahead. I'm with you.
Okay, that's my first thing. And 2 is this convention feels like a classic first night convention where basically you're like, all the people who we know we need to give speaking slots to like just make them feel good, we're going to throw them on night 1. There's no coherent message, no theme. It doesn't. I guess everyday American is the theme, but like it doesn't really work. There's it's scattershot. I can't really follow anything. David Sachs followed by Charlie Kirk followed by Marsha Blackburn. It's just the narrative flow is not there.
David was talking about foreign policy and isolationism, and I thought tonight was Make America Wealthy again or whatever. So I will say this. Tim Scott, who ran an exceedingly unimpressive presidential campaign, and who has really shamed himself in the ways that he's sucked up to Trump. Like his speech, I probably watched 5 or 6 of them, like actually echoed Trump's message. So maybe should have had Tim Scott in prime time instead of these other folks, because he did the thing that Trump does, which is we're talking about the border, how it's making people less safe, how it's hurting people's pocketbooks, and how Joe Biden is old and infirm and out to lunch, and how that is causing chaos domestic and abroad. Like that was Tim Scott's speech. It was a little corny, but he at least had a message. And I was thinking, I was like, oh, and then he also had, again, kind of a corny line about Trump, standing up and yelling fight after
that was what I was going to say. That Tim Scott's message, the reason it worked in this context is because it was hagiography, and that's what this is, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to call Trump an American lion, and you're like, yeah, that's what this convention is. Whereas like David Sachs in a kind of ill-fitting suit is talking about like lives in Ukraine, and you're just like, where are you going with this?
The weird work that he has done on his face, it was very, the San Francisco, the eyebrows. They were not natural eyebrows. Joe Perticone is joining us. He has natural eyebrows.
Oh yeah, Joe.
How did David Sachs? How was that received in the room? Was it received as well as it was in my hotel room?
I'm not in the room. I'm in the press area.
How was it received in the press area, Joe?
It's pretty quiet in here. Everyone's doing their jobs.
All right. So, Joe, can you give us any on-the-ground reporting? Or are you just kind of checking in to say hi?
I'm checking in, but also I think that you're already starting to see the themes of like the disunity. So in between the speeches, there was a big video where Trump declared election denial, says we're going to have paper ballots. And so that's the kind of stuff they're feeding in between the speeches.
Interesting.
So you don't really get a glimpse of.
Because Charlie Kirk was like, we're going to chase every ballot. We're going to, go.
Yeah. Well, no, they put a video from Trump declaring, oh, we're going to have a big, beautiful elections, and we're not going to let what happened in 2020 happen again.
Has Trump turned on the mail thing? Is he trying to backtrack on being pro mail or no? Still no.
No, it's paper ballot, same day voting was in the new platform.
Interesting, because I think they had turned on it. I thought the RNC was embracing mail-in, but maybe Trump just can't get over it.
Yeah.
It's the Rubicon he can't cross.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, settle for 1 second because I did want to talk with Tim about Lester Holt and Biden. I watched it. Tim, I think we're in the same boat, but I don't know. You go first.
Give me something positive to say about it.
It's not positive. Meanwhile, watching JD Vance, he's showing up here, but we're going to talk quickly Lester Holt and Biden. Lester Holt sat down with Biden tonight. It was fine for Biden, but that's not fine, right? Like, if you're like a Biden stan and you watch it, you're like, okay, cool. Like he like turned one question on Holt and called Lester Holt out and said, you should be talking about Trump's lies. And like, fine, that's great. But like, if you needed, some dexterity, some political acuity, if you want like someone to like forcefully make the case, that's just not it. And I don't know how many more examples you need to see to believe that he's not up for that task, but like, he's now had several post-debate chances to do this. I think he's had a couple decent events. The interviews have not gone particularly well. I mean, they've been fine, but I think when you're running 2 to 3 points behind, you need to do something more aggressive and more substantial. And just he's getting these opportunities. Now, I will say the most sympathetic case is that he's still in this conversation of how bad did you perform? And like, do you recognize that you're like lost a step? And those questions are inherently put you on the defensive. But like, man, if you're a Democrat, you kind of need to see a little bit more here, right?
I mean, why is he still in that conversation? Because he can't get out of it. That's why.
Yeah.
Because he's not good at parrying the questions. He's defensive, and like Lester says to him, "Why not do another debate? Why not get back on the horse?" And he's like, "I don't need to do that. I'm on the horse."
Right.
I'm on the horse, and he's like, "Oh," and then Lester's like, "How are you on the horse?" He's like, "Well, I'm demonstrating people that I still have my mental acuity," or what was the word he used? It wasn't mental acuity. It was even worse than that. He said I still commanded my faculties. That's not a winning message. I'm still commanding my faculties. So I'm
looking for the right quote here, but I think that's basically it.
He is not there for being aggressive. Like again, I'm not saying his dementia. He seems like he knows, like it takes him a while to get to the facts, but he knows what he's trying to say, but he cannot pivot to a positive message. He cannot pivot to an aggressive message against Donald Trump. And I don't know if people that watch this, they're mad at me. They're like, Tim, you're always picking on him. Okay. I don't know how, if the answer is every time he gives an interview, people that have already decided that he's old, thinks he's too old, and people that think that he's, might be a codger, but he's our codger and we're going to stick with him and he's done a great job. They think that's not good enough. He's got to win people back.
Right.
And I just am not seeing that in any of these off the cuff. Again, I said on the podcast this morning, I'm happy to mention it. He was really good in Detroit last Friday.
Sympathetic. Let's make the sympathetic argument. Here it is. And you tell me how full of shit it is.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay. He shat the bed at the debate, right? He's going to endure a couple of these interviews until it's done. He probably should have started the interview process a lot earlier to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
He didn't, whatever. He's in the situation. He also is dealing with, an attempted assassination on Trump. Like he's not going to
making this face at Don Jr., not at you. And
I was a little bit offended. Then I looked at
these are like the worst people in America, all in the same row. Okay, sorry. Continue.
No, it's okay. So he lost my train of thought. He's also this is all happening in the wake of the attempted assassination and the Republican convention. So like you're naturally going to be put on the defensive, even if you do parlay it pretty well. Like these are just tough interviews, right? Like it's just not going to be a place where you're going to be like, actually,
Trump's about to come out with a bandage on his ear.
Yes. All right. Why don't we take a little break? We'll pick it up after that. Let's go to the live stream right now, and we'll take it live.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lee Greenwood.
Hello, RNC. Is there any doubt who's going to be the next president of the United States? Prayer works. This nation based on faith. Prayer works. Because he was sure, as Donald Trump turned his head just slightly, that the bullet missed him just enough to save his life to be the next president of the United States. We have believed for so long that God will make some changes in this country. And he's about to make a change in the current administration and send them home. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Tonight, we make the decision on what's right for America. More prosperity, less gas prices, less food prices, help for our veterans, and God bless our military wherever they are in this United States and abroad. There would be no wars.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next president of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again. Just my children and my wife. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. Sing it! God bless the USA. We are here tonight with one purpose, and that is to elect Donald J. Trump as the next president of the United States. He is here tonight to show his courage, his defiance against somebody who tried to kill him. You will not take this man down. He has the courage, the strength, and he will be the next president of the United States. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea. Ladies and gentlemen, the 45th President of the United States and soon to be the 47th President of the United States, please welcome Donald J. Trump. Oh, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
I've muted myself. I was commenting to Jan that I concur. This is very unusual. I will say that the former president, obviously, it's an emotional moment for the family, but he's looking a little more vulnerable than usual in a way.
I was just gonna say that.
Really?
Yeah, I wrote it down. Like there's like a sort of somberness about him, right?
Yeah,
it's right
I would
there.
have expected him to come out today with like a, almost like a boxing gloves, and they'd flirted it with, I don't know, maybe he woke up 50 Cent, the rapper who got shot, was going to come out. Like I was expecting like that, and there definitely is a vulnerable. The word is vulnerable.
100%, and you have to sort of imagine that. I mean, I don't even know how the hell to fucking think about this, right? Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
We can swear on the Bulwark YouTube.
Yeah, that's fine.
I swear quite a bit.
Yeah, like this is just on the one hand, it's probably like the biggest psychological mindfuck you can imagine, right? Like he was just almost killed 2 days ago, right? And now he's like, "Oh, you're the Messiah, and like come and save us." It's like that's I don't know. Trump's obviously quite unique in terms of his ego, but like, and that there's got to be something unsettling to a degree about it. I don't know. I'm just sort of.
Well, he also is not a religious person.
No, of course
not. And and so hearing people talking about how God saved him,
right?
That's again, you're processing all this, and you looked at JD's right there, and I'm not a lip reader, but like when Lee Greenwood started talking, JD was looking at Byron Donalds, and they. To my eye, we're doing like it is fucking unbelievable that like he turned his head. Like it is truly and as unusual as this is for all of us to watch, like for that, I think that sentiment is there.
Yeah,
as well.
Just look at Trump now, like exactly what you're saying, like something oddly subdued, almost melancholy about it. I don't want to read too much into it, but yeah, that very different vibe than you're used to with the guy, and kind of a remarkable historical moment here too. The ear bandage, adding another element to it. Obviously, he's not someone who likes to look anything other than his classical Trump look, but situation calls for this.
It's the Mike Tyson ear bite. It's hard for me to get my head off of. I mean, it's like I can't think of any other time of a public figure who had a major ear injury. I know that there's obviously some differences there. Since Trump
just a few, Tim.
Anyway, it's worth just going back to what you were saying beforehand before we kind of let people get back to this. But again, I think it provides an opportunity for both these. Like this is a totally. I mean, I guess the message of night one of this debate now is just Trump is alive and is the savior. So there's the cult element message, which is basically night one. But going back to the Biden, I heard everything you're saying going forward. That I understand the frustration of President Biden that he's doing these interviews. He is showing that he doesn't have dementia. He is answering the questions. He is frustrated with the media. He does wish the questions were going to be about something else. But like the frustration keeps coming back to the fact that he's losing the race, and the stakes are very high, and people have rendered a judgment on him that he's too old. If you just look at the polls, and so it puts him kind of in this impossible position, which is like I need to demonstrate to those people that I am not, but time only goes one way, and so like I do think that I understand the frustration of Biden fans and Biden team in these interviews, but it's like. Lengthy discursive messages, answers, that don't land to clear messages. It isn't the same, Joe Biden.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I'm not saying he's God or anything like this, but Nate Silver had an interesting article today.
I would hope Nate Silver would not be God. We'd be in a very deep. I have some concerns. I have some concerns about the Catholic God as it exists, but I do think superior to Nate Silver if I had to choose.
We'll welcome you into the Jewish
Jewish
tribe
faith.
if you want. Yeah.
A rocky period. I'm already going through some. Some rocky times with my
We
political
might conquer-
affiliation, my career. So I
No,
don't
we
know. I
might-
don't
we
know
might
that
do some
joining the
things on
Jews
this
right moment
podcast.
to join
No.
Judaism.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
go
okay.
ahead. What were you saying?
I was gonna say he said the Vance thing. So obviously the background is Nate could be maybe the most bearish of the sort of polling data nerds on Biden's chances.
Yeah.
But he's like, the Vance thing actually is an opportunity. He's like, it actually opens the door for Biden to make a proactive case for his candidacy, more or less built around the themes that already exist, like women voters. You should be scared of this, right?
Yeah.
And today's call, I was on it with the Biden campaign. It was fine. It was conventional. It was a conference call with top officials. They made economic arguments, called them false populists, that type of stuff. But to your point, it's like when you're running down at this point, you gotta go. And I just think conventional campaign tactics and occasional sit downs with major news anchors and 2 campaign stops a week is just not going to cut it. Now they say, well, we have a lot of time, but you don't. It's like you have 4 months less. It's just not a lot of time. People are going to be voting soon.
Yeah, the JD thing does provide opportunity on the women's issues because he has some horrible quotes on that. I would be not doing service to the Bulwark audience if I didn't mention that it provides real opportunity on the national security side. Also, I mean, I think that there's a category of traditional Republican. In my head, I'm thinking of living in Atlanta, older guy that reads the Wall Street Journal ed board, that doesn't like Trump, probably voted for Biden last time.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been soft with those type of voters, right? Like a very traditionally conservative, older voter. Biden's numbers have been a little soft there, and JD does provide an opportunity, to message to some of those people.
It's not
That's
a
just
foreign
like
policy election. It's just not.
no, it's not. No, it's not. We're just trying to win some people back on the edges.
Sorry,
I don't know.
Yes, of course.
I hear you though. No. That's not going to be the main thing. Abortion is much more potent with a broader audience. Of course.
Yeah.
But it's worth saying that Trump could have gone another way that would have foreclosed some of those voters for coming back to Biden.
Right.
Picked a more national security oriented, and I guess that's my point. That's on the margins, but.
What were some of the dark horse candidates that were being thrown around on our Slack channels today? Nikki Haley, Glenn
Youngkin, yeah.
Who else?
So,
Someone 50 Cent,
Scott. I mean Tim Scott. I mean any of those guys. Burgum. Even Lease in a way would have been more ideologically you could have made that sale. So I don't know. One more thing about Trump. I'm looking at him.
Sure.
He does kind of look like he's in pain. So he might very well be in pain. But I don't know. There was because we haven't heard from him or seen him. There were the videos of him golfing yesterday. There was some chatter about that. Obviously, internet brained people of both sides were like, "Oh, he's golfing. He doesn't care about anybody," or it's like, "Oh, he's a badass. He's golfing." I don't know. There's just a video of the guy golfing. He likes to golf. So we didn't really know.
Was that video even true? That was Mike Lee tweeting it, and people were like, "I don't know if that's real." It's just because Mike Lee.
I trust everything. If you don't trust what at base Mike Lee posts, if you don't trust base Mike Lee broke the JD Vance thing. He beat Caputo to the punch on that.
I'm talking to Caputo about that tomorrow.
There you go.
Not acceptable.
So anyway, I don't know. It's noteworthy.
Okay, yeah, but let's be real. He's 77 years old. He's running around the country, and he was just shot. He should be fucking tired. That's legit. Just like Biden, I give Biden some credit. He was in 15 different time zones. Whatever. You can be tired. You're old. These people are old. I think that's legit, and I think getting shot is legit. I'm shocked he's here. I guess he has to be here, but man, I would be, I'd be golfing too if I'm being honest. I would just be chilling for a little bit.
Jim Swift with the fact check. Mike Lee was correct about JD Vance, but incorrect about the golfing. So
where's Jim telling us this shit?
There you go. He's in the comments there.
Jim, hop on the chat. Jim.
Incorrect. Incorrect about the golfing. So the base Mike Lee Twitter feed.
Let's talk a little bit about Mike Lee. We talked about Mike Lee in the pregame.
Yeah,
but
it is bizarre.
That's the microcosm of the pure microcosm of modern Republican politics, right? His 2016 convention appearance to now.
Yeah, 8 years ago, he's on the floor. So I was part of the group that was doing what was called Release the Delegates.
Yeah, I remember.
Which is another thing that's giving me PTSD.
flashbacks?
Yeah, about this election. But I was advising them on PR, and about a day before the election, I decided not to go to Cleveland because we didn't have the numbers. And I was like, I'm not going to go punish myself and spin bullshit for a failing Release the Delegates effort. I'm a glutton for punishment, but I'm not that big of a glutton for punishment. So instead, I went to Richmond and went to see a concert with my friend, and we got drunk.
Who'd you see?
Will Ritter. You know Will Ritter. He's
I know Will, but what concert did you see?
We went to see. Oh shit! It was the Black Keys have the one guy's the spin-off band. I'm blanking on the name of it. It's a spin-off band off the Black Keys. But Mike Lee was I guess my point in telling that story is that Mike Lee was more adamant than me. Like, I felt like I was at the tip of the spear of this stopping Trump, and he's like, "No, I'm going to go there and I'm going to shout from the floor in the hopes maybe that creates some kind of follow-on effect." It didn't, obviously, but no. I mean, the different now. I mean, his Twitter feed is totally. He has probably the most Trumpian Twitter feed in the Senate. Maybe
I was in Cleveland. I was in the convention hall when it happened. I was also there. Here's Amber Rose.
We should probably listen to Amber Rose.
Let's Amber. I'll tell the story on the flip side. Let's listen to Amber quickly, Barry.
But most importantly, I'm a mother. My whole world revolves around providing for my children, keeping them safe, and giving them an opportunity for a better life. That's something that unites all American parents, whether we're Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, or liberals. We all want a better country for our children. But I'm here tonight to tell you, no matter your political background, that the best chance we have to give our babies a better life is to elect Donald Trump President of the United States. Now, you may be wondering why I'm up here telling you this. I'm no politician and I don't want to be, but I do care about the truth. And the truth is that the media has lied to us about Donald Trump. I know this because for a long time I believed those lies, so I'm here to set the record straight. The first person I knew who supported Donald Trump was my father. I was shocked. My entire family is racially diverse, and I believed the left-wing propaganda that Donald Trump was a racist. My father said, "No, he's not, Amber. What are you talking about?" And when I insisted, he said, "Prove it." So to prove my father wrong, I did my research and looked into all things Donald Trump. People have to do their research. I watched all the rallies, and I started meeting so many of you, his red hat wearing supporters. I realized Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, or straight. It's all love. And that's when it hit me. These are my people. This is where I belong. So I let go of my fear of judgment, of being misunderstood, of getting attacked by the left, and I put the red hat on too. Thank you. Love you too. I never felt more free and more love for my country than I do now. I want to thank my father, who's in the audience tonight, for opening my eyes. He served over 20 years in the U.S. military. Thank you for your service, Dad. Where's he at? I love you, Dad. I love you. I love you so much. Thank you. When I met the president and Melania for the first time, He was kind and generous and funny as hell. Very funny. The First Lady was gracious and smart with a smile that will brighten up any room. If you're watching this tonight, you know our country is in trouble. Just like me. When you go to the store and buy food for your family, you're shocked. When you fill up your gas tank, you're pissed. I know I am. And when you turn on the news, you are just exhausted. Inflation is out of control. And you know in your heart it was not like this under Donald Trump. My message to you tonight comes from a humble place. The left told me to hate Trump, and even worse, to hate the other side, the people who support him. When you cut through the lies, you realize the truth. American families were better when Donald Trump was president. We were safer, wealthier, and stronger. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote to put money back in our pockets and good food on our kids' plates. Yes. Or, as Trump would say, it's a vote to make America great again. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure that Amber has a very detailed grasp of the macroeconomic factors that were leading to inflation or not, but her speech was significantly better than David Balsack's.
Yeah, it cleared the David Sachs bar. I will say she probably should have, if she did her research on Trump's racism, I think she
might have stumbled on a few quotes.
Yeah, she might have stopped researching a little bit. And guys, we are joined by Jim Swift. You might see him there in the bottom screen. What a pleasure. What a pleasure.
You're going to tell us about Cleveland 2016, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's great that Jim has a Cleveland hat. So, Jim, we were talking about Cleveland 2016, the convention, before Amber came on. We're doing it because we were making the point of the evolution of the party. Tim was going to go. He decided not to go. I went. I was in the hall. I can still remember the kind of shaking of the room when Ted Cruz said people should vote their conscience. Like, I just remember the eruption, the boos, but the cheers too, like absolute complete division in the room. You felt in that moment like the party was coming apart, it seems. And then tonight, it's just like, it's hagiography, it's a love fest. There's nothing in any indication of any division at all whatsoever.
Sam, I remember exactly where I was in Quicken Loans Arena when Ted Cruz said that. I was not, I've never really been a Ted Cruz fan, but I remember exactly where I was going and exactly where I was walking up the stairs when that, you could feel it in the room. It really was like the energy had just really changed. I'm not sure we're going to see many moments like that here.
See no moments like that, none.
Yeah, but it was really kind of the last.
Is Cruz even speaking? Is he scheduled to speak at this convention? Do we know?
I haven't seen any indication that he is slated to speak, but I don't think that they've been giving us the lineup as quickly as previous conventions have.
A lot of people seem to be getting high in the comments section.
What do you mean?
Jealous?
What we got?
I don't know. They're just several people discussing that they're needing to resort to.
The
drugs, a little bit of inebriation to deal with this, and I'm jealous. That's all.
I guess what kind of drugs you could would be appropriate for this convention? I don't know. You can choose.
I do think Amber Rose got a better reception at the 2024 GOP convention than Ted Cruz did in 2016.
Oh, 100%.
Clearly.
Yeah, clearly. What did you think of Amber Rose, Jim?
I mean, I was explaining in the comments who she was. She rose to fame thanks to Kanye. And as a Swift, of course, we're not big fans.
150 milligram gummies? Kim, chill out.
150 mil?
Yeah, chill.
No,
Kim,
you need to cut those in like tenths.
Yeah, dial it back.
What the hell are you doing?
Jim, what do you think about Amber Rose, how she did on the slut walk? Are you a big follower of Amber's other work?
No. In fact, I only know who she was. I copy and pasted the Wikipedia. I knew she was.
You don't have a similar tattoo on your forehead, Jim?
No tattoos. I mean, I do wear the hat for Cleveland. So I got to see my hat hair there, but no, it's not covering up any regrettable tattoos or anything like that.
Let's ask Jim what he thought of Trump too, because Tim and I had similar thoughts about his appearance, but also just sort of the vibes around him. Curious what you thought, Jim, if you were watching.
Yeah. Someone in the comments was wondering if he was going to go with the Band-Aid. And I thought like the combination, we're having rappers there. Like, would he go with the Nelly Band-Aid? The full ear thing was an interesting choice because it could fall off. And I think that's what one of you guys said. But like, there he is. I mean, if you remember RNC, they had like the crystal ballroom where Trump and his family could like hide and not be on camera. So it is like an interesting, bold choice, I think, for him to be on camera here, other than just kind of go out and wave. Because, a lot of weird things could happen, with a room full of adoring fans. There were lines of Secret Service out there. Like there could be some, not bad, but like awkward made for TV moments as like a well-wisher could go over and, want to like pray over him or something. Wouldn't be unusual at the convention.
Can I throw a half-baked idea at you?
Okay.
It's again, just day one of the convention and all this, but the caution, is it possible that I don't think that we're getting the softer, gentler Trump, whatever the absurd shit that Axios was saying this morning. Oh, man, he might bring the country together. But like, is he getting a little, traditional? Like, is this night one of the convention? Like, I mean, obviously having Amber Rose on stage is not traditional, but it doesn't have the kind of weirdness, the authentic Trumpness of the 2016 thing or the 2020 thing, which was totally inappropriate to have it at the White House, but like that had its own kind of element to it. I don't know. Is he going corporate? I guess is what I'm saying.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe a little, but like, it still feels to me like it's sort of got that reality TV vibe, honestly, like down to like the whole we got like all the VP nominees were going to be called in and so-and-so got their rose that they were not going to be the pick. And we were getting those reports in real time. And then, obviously, but maybe there's just only so much you can do with the stagecraft of these things, right? Like,
it's interesting you mentioned stagecraft because the design of the stage is very similar. It's dark, it's black and white. It's not the kind of red, white, and blue you remember from like grainy C-SPAN videos with the balloon drop. It's kind of like, Death Star dystopian. And, as Tim was saying in 2016, remember that black screen and then the silhouette and him coming out. I think it's too early to tell. I think we're going to see that messaging.
We might see that. We got a couple nights, guys.
Yeah.
How many more nights of this do we have to do?
Today's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Great.
I'm heading out there tomorrow. I will not be on this, but I will be on Thursday and Wednesday, Thursday. Guys, let's take a pause. Let's listen to Sean O'Brien. He's the last speaker of the night. This is the head of the Teamsters Union. Very rare for him to be speaking at the Republican convention, so kind of newsy. Tim, I think you got to bounce, so we'll see.
I got to roll. I'll see you on the podcast tomorrow.
All right, Jim, stick around. I'm going to grab some other people. Let's listen to Sean for a little bit while we grab him.
They know the system is broken. We all know how Washington is run. Working people have no chance of winning this fight. That's why I'm here today, because I refuse to keep doing the same things my predecessors did. Today, the Teamsters are here to say we are not beholden to anyone or any party. We will create an agenda and work with a bipartisan coalition ready to accomplish something real for the American worker. And I don't care about getting criticized. It's an honor to be the first Teamster in our 121-year history to address the Republican National Convention. Several months ago, I asked the RNC and the DNC for the opportunity to speak. To be frank, when President Trump invited me to speak at this convention, there was political unrest on the left and on the right. Hard to believe. Anti-union groups demanded the president rescind his invitation. The left called me a traitor. And this is precisely why it's so important for me to be here today. Think about this. Think about this. The Teamsters are doing something correct. If the extremes in both parties think I shouldn't be on this stage. President Trump had the backbone to open the doors to this Republican convention, and that's unprecedented. No other nominee in the race would have invited the Teamsters into this arena. Now, you can have whatever opinion you want, but one thing is clear. President Trump is a candidate who is not afraid of hearing from new, loud, and often critical voices. And I think we all can agree, whether people like him or they don't like him, in light of what happened to him on Saturday, he has proven to be one tough SOB. Now, when I won the presidency of the Teamsters in a national election 2.5 years ago, we started reaching across the aisle. In the past, the Teamsters have endorsed GOP candidates, including Nixon, Reagan, and George H.W. Bush. But over the last 40 years, the Republican Party has really pursued strong relationships with organized labor. There are some in the party who stand in active opposition to labor unions. This too must change. And I want to be clear. At the end of the day, the Teamsters are not interested if you have a D, R, or an I next to your name. We want to know one thing. What are you doing to help American workers? As a negotiator, I know that no window or door should ever be permanently shut. In my administration, the Teamsters reached out to 8 Republican senators who stood up for railroad Teamsters over our fight for paid sick leave. Josh Hawley was one of them. We started talking. Senator Hawley changed his position on national right to work. Then we started walking. Senator Hawley walked a Teamsters picket line in St. Louis and a UAW picket line in Wentzville, Missouri. More than that, I want to recognize Senator Hawley for his direct, relentless, and pointed questioning of corporate talking heads, lawyers, CEOs, and apologists. He has shown he is not willing to accept their pillaging of working people's pocketbooks. I know from a career in negotiating that you get nowhere by slamming your fist on the table. The first step is to listen. The Teamsters and the GOP may not agree on many issues, but a growing group has shown the courage to sit down and consider points of view that aren't funded by big money think tanks. Senators like J.D. Vance, Roger Marshall, and Representatives Nicole Malliotakis, Mike Lawler, and Brian Fitzpatrick are among elected officials who truly care about working people. And this group is expanding and is putting fear into those who have monopolized our very broken system in America today. There are far too many people on both sides of the aisle still caught up in knee-jerk reactions to unions, who subscribe to the same tired claptrap that unions destroy American companies. Take a moment to consider United Parcel Service, which is the largest private sector logistics company, and it's been unionized for more than 100 years. More than 350,000 Teamsters make it run. We work for good middle-class wages, quality health care, and secure pensions. There are work rules that ensure fairness and due process for both sides. UPS is the most efficient package delivery company in the world. But let's not forget that UPS doesn't provide these great wages and benefits out of the kindness of its heart. UPS does it because the Teamsters fight for it, all 350,000 of us. You know, corporatists hate when working people join together to form unions. But for a century, major employers have waged a war against labor by forming corporate unions of their own. We need to call the Chamber of Commerce and the business roundtables what they are. They are unions for big business. And here's another fact. Against gigantic multinational corporation, an individual worker has zero power. It's only when Americans band together in democratic unions that we win real improvements on wages, benefits, and working conditions. Companies like Amazon are bigger than most national economies. Amazon is valued over $2 trillion. That makes it the 14th largest economy in the world. What is sickening is that Amazon has abandoned any national allegiance. Amazon's sole focus is on lining its own pockets. Remember, elites have no party, elites have no nation. Their loyalty is to the balance sheet and the stock price at the expense of the American worker. In my office in Washington, D.C., I can see the United States Capitol from my window. I see well-intentioned people arrive in Washington and get eaten up by an unforgiving system. The responsibility to average Americans takes a back seat. The objective now becomes survival. Fundraiser after fundraiser. Corporate consultants hedge every initiative. The Hill crawls with lifers, bouncing from government jobs to corporate jobs and back again. I think we can all agree D.C. is a pretty treacherous area. Most legislation is never meant to go anywhere, and it's all talk. And in America, talk isn't cheap. It's very expensive, and it comes at the cost of our own country. Working people know our system is broken. The elites are not laboring on behalf of workers. There is a political caste system that prevents citizens from accessing their representatives to hold them accountable. For a moment in time, working people in America were seen as essential. Sadly, it took a global pandemic for political and corporate elites to notice this fact. But ask yourself this question. Since the end of the pandemic, when was the last time you heard major news outlets regularly refer to workers as essential? You haven't. The men and women who provide goods and services, deliver packages, stock grocery shelves, care for patients, pick up your trash, and keep our communities safe are taken for granted. All the while, the stock market booms, housing prices hit record highs, and corporate salaries skyrocket. But the income of everyday Americans are shrinking in the face of inflation. At the gas pumps, at the grocery store, with the electrical bill, and with the car insurance. This has got to change. Never forget, American workers own this nation. We are not renters. We are not tenants, but the corporate elite treat us like squatters, and that is a crime. We've got to fix it. Now, this will shock you. This will shock you. To paraphrase Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, it's time for both sides of Congress to stand their butts up. We need trade policies that put American workers first. It needs to be easier for companies to remain in America. We need legal protections that make it safer for workers to get a contract. We must stop corporations from abandoning local communities to inflate their bottom line. We need meaningful bankruptcy reform. Today, corporate vultures buy up companies like Yellow Freight with the intent of driving them into bankruptcy and feasting on their remains. The courts leave workers begging for crumbs as third-tier creditors. Labor law must be reformed. Americans vote for a union but can never get a union contract. Companies fire workers who try to join unions and hide behind toothless laws that are meant to protect working people but are manipulated to benefit corporations. This is economic terrorism at its best. An individual cannot withstand such an assault. A fired worker cannot afford corporate delays, and these greedy employers know it. There are no consequences for the company, only the worker. We need corporate welfare reform. Under our current system, massive companies like Amazon, Uber, Lyft, and Walmart take zero responsibilities for the workers they employ. These companies offer no real health insurance, no retirement benefits, no paid leave, relying on underfunded public assistance. And who foots the bill? The individual taxpayer. The biggest recipients of welfare in this country are corporations, and this is real corruption. We must put workers first. What could be more important to the security of our nation than a long-term investment in the American worker? In 2021, Teamsters nationwide elected me to fight for them, and that's precisely what I'm doing. Something is wrong in this country, and we need to say it out loud. I will always speak for America and the American worker, both union and non-union. I challenge each and every one of you, and especially my friends on the Democratic side, to embrace cooperation, to truly collaborate, to achieve meaningful and productive change, to ensure we make this great nation in this world the bigger, faster, and strongest nation in the entire world. I love this country. The Teamsters love this country. Our 1.3 million members move America on the roads, in the ports, on the rail, and in the air. And at the end of the day, if the powers to be stop me from raising my voice on behalf of American workers, I will not have one single regret. I still carry my commercial driver's license. I still have my place on the union seniority list. You'll find me back in Boston driving a tractor trailer, delivering equipment for Shaughnessy and Ahern, because I have the protection of a union contract that gives me the freedom to speak my mind and to fight like hell. God bless the greatest nation. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let's pick it up here if Barry can mute this. Okay. That was honestly incredible. I'm going to take privilege of the host here. I'm going to take a couple minutes to just sort of digest that, because that was incredibly rare to see something like that happen, maybe unprecedented to see something like that happen. And I think to some degree really underscores our modern political system and how kind of up in the air it's been thrown by Trump. Okay, so Sean O'Brien, head of the Teamsters, gets on stage. I think that was the longest speech of the night, like by some magnitude. So rips major corporations from the stage, among them Amazon, Walmart, Uber, Lyft, just tears them to shred, warns of economic terrorism, delivers a pot shot to the Chamber of Commerce. That's not like something you would ever see at a Republican convention. It's shocking to see because historically Republicans have been very much aligned with corporate interests. They've wanted to protect or align themselves with the Chamber of Commerce, and they fought union policies. The other thing that was shocking to me is that yes, there are some Republicans who have shown some pro-union tendencies. I think Vance is among them, Hawley's among them. The Teamsters got a $36 billion pension fund bailout from Joe Biden. That money was courtesy of the COVID relief bill that Biden passed early in office on a party line vote. I mean, the Teamsters pensions are basically saved because of Biden. And for Sean O'Brien to go to the RNC and give, whatever cover he gave to Trump and to make the case that Democrats are somewhat out of touch and that everyone needs to get along and so on and so forth is a real middle finger to Biden. I cannot imagine that goes over well at all with a president who must be wondering what the fuck he did to deserve this after getting $36 billion to rescue that pension. But A.B., I don't know, maybe I'm way out of place, but I was just watching, I was just shocked. I can't recall ever seeing anything like that. And maybe I'm getting a little wonky too, but correct me if I'm wrong. A.B., you're muted. Unmute yourself first.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Sorry. No, I agree. It was dramatic. And I, too, was thinking of Joe Biden. And I was hoping he was going to take it in because he needs to, as painful as it will be. Trump has realigned our politics. He's moving non-college Black and Latino voters out of the Democratic Party. And he is really breaking up the chokehold of union support, even though unions are weakening anyway. But it was so fascinating to hear him make his pitch for Trump and then go into his stump speech,
right,
and talk about greedy employers. There was not a lot of applause, but there was at other times when he talked about workers. But it was amazing to hear him attacking those corporations in a room full of people that, this hall, these delegates, they don't like the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce backed the Joe Biden bipartisan infrastructure package and worked really hard with Senator Cassidy from Louisiana and others who are proponents of it to try to get House Republicans. They got all of maybe 13 of them, all of whom were primaried for supporting a bipartisan infrastructure bill that was long sought by both parties and would help their own districts and help the economy. So because of politics, that became toxic. Therefore, the chamber became isolated. Everything has changed. And so in the Republican Party, it's populist, it's nationalist. So it was wild to see, but it's not surprising in terms of the direction we've seen everything moving.
Yeah, Jim, do you have any historical knowledge you want to drop on us about this? I mean, it's just, you've been covering Republican politics forever. I can't imagine turning over the last night of a convention to a leading union figure. Just unprecedented.
Yeah, it was. And, I felt myself turning into the Republican Senate staffer I was 17 years ago, just listening to the kind of torrent of mistruths and some outright lies from Mr. O'Brien there. Like, Amazon doesn't have good benefits. Yeah, you can say that the jobs might be a little bit too hard in some instances, but they offer health insurance on day one. I know that's true because I've had friends work for Amazon, and, it's also in their commercials. It's strange to me that he spent so much time talking about people, maybe not strange, but when he was talking about Hawley and then started going down the list of other people, I mean, Josh Hawley's running against Lucas Kuntz, who I did a profile on about 1.5 years ago. And he's a huge fan of organized labor. and does not have Josh Hawley's background. I think Josh Hawley, where unions are actually pretty strong in parts of Missouri, just kind of caved because he saw that's the way that Trump was going with certain unions. But if you're looking for a horse to back, I mean, yes, Hawley's probably going to beat Lucas Coons. Picking him over someone who's like a clear friend, that seemed like the closest thing that you could get to an endorsement. It seems very odd that, he's trying to strike this balance here, but I made a mention here in the comments in the chat. I think that, he's under big pressure from a lot of his union members who are big fans of Donald Trump.
Right.
And if they just kind of did their lockstep, Republicans are not friends of organized labor, and historically they're not. That they could lose some support. And as A.B. was mentioning, the unions are crumbling. Josh Hawley might be against right to work, but right to work is largely winning, just like the NRA largely won on concealed carry. It hasn't won everywhere, and Missouri and Ohio are examples of that. But, I wouldn't be shocked if Trump just, was fine with some, judiciary decree kind of creating a penumbra, a ruling of right to work. He'd say, "Oh, sorry, guys. I don't buy that the Republicans are really going to become friends of organized labor."
No.
But
Trump, and we went through this before, Jim. And we did this in 2020. We did this in 2016. Like, Trump obviously has an appeal with the union vote, but like his policies in office were definitively not pro-union policies. I mean, where were some of them? The National Labor Relations Board stacked with people who are pro-business interests, attacks on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, of other things. He was not like, he was a traditional Republican in the postures that he took when it came to union. It was not anything that the Teamsters probably applauded. Joe, I want to just sort of kind of step back a little bit. Like, what's the goal in having Sean O'Brien end the convention? And like, what was the goal if they won? And I guess, did they accomplish what they set out to do?
He requested, I don't think it's been confirmed that he'll speak at the DNC, but he requested speaking slots for both parties. The fact that they gave him such a long speech and the end of the night speech, I think speaks to the opportunism that you see in the GOP now. J.D. Vance has a 0% rating from AFL-CIO. This is not a pro-worker party. You could tell by the quietness of the crowd compared to Amber Rose speaking. I raced back to the filing center after Amber Rose because I went there and I wanted to get eyes on Tony Perkins, but I couldn't find him. But, I think it's just like O'Brien getting a big speech at this time. It just shows like they will do anything. They will say anything.
I think it also is like Trump loves to try to pick at, he's smart in this way. He likes to pick at the other person's coalition, right?
Yeah, and he loves the acceptance of people who haven't accepted him before, and someone like O'Brien would be perfect. But like O'Brien didn't endorse there, but he gave a very big helping hand to Republicans tonight by doing this. Like, he cut a lot of sound bites for them where they can say we're pro-worker.
Yeah, totally agree. A.B., is that your take too? I mean, I guess we were talking about this earlier. There didn't seem to be like a kind of overarching theme to the night. It was kind of scattershot a little bit. Obviously, a couple everyday American speakers, and then Amber Rose, who definitely not an everyday American. But yeah, so we were struggling to figure out what the theme was for tonight, and then Sean O'Brien with this closing speech kind of adds to my confusion, I guess.
Right. It was a jumble if you look at everybody together. But interestingly, they're ordinary Americans telling their stories of how their lives have changed and rising costs. That's, that I don't know how many people are going to tune in and stream this convention. It's pretty dull. But Trump wanted to make it dramatic by showing up with his big bandage and sitting in between Vance on one side, Byron Donalds on the other, then Tucker, then Speaker Johnson in like the bro front row. He looked bored as hell.
Yeah.
But he basked in the glow because they say, I love Trump, and chant in between and the fight. And the body language between him and Vance was terrible. But Vance, to my pleasure, did have to clap and say, I love Trump, I love Trump. And the theme in between the life is hell under Joe Biden stories, which were compelling, was the theme of conversion, right? Amber Rose, I can't remember the name of the woman that they introduced as a Latina American. These are people who've come around and are telling the crowd that Trump is lied about, he's wonderful, and as you just pointed out, this feels good. Or was it Joe? Sorry. This feels good when someone was a former critic comes around. He loves that. Comes around to submit. So the story of regular women coming and telling their stories to the crowd, saying, I too, I voted for Biden, or I didn't believe that Trump was a racist. They love that stuff. So it's not that there was an overarching theme, but I get why they chose the speakers. And the Sean O'Brien thing it's provocative.
Well, and Vance fits into that, right? Like the conversion. I really love that theme, that observation.
It's true with Vance. It's true.
Yeah. Could be an interesting written piece too. Wink, wink. But yeah, the conversion thing is totally in Vance, right? Like he once hated and he now has been found. And like that is just the theme of the night, basically.
It was amazing to watch him turning Trump at this angle with this clapping, everyone clapping, including Trump. And he's going, I love Trump, or we love Trump. We love Trump. It was amazing to watch.
Do you guys remember Lynn Patton in the 2016 cycle?
Yeah, of course.
Lynn Patton, the former, was she an apprentice? She was on The Apprentice. Yeah. There was a similar theme that I remember. I went to a Moms for Trump rally in Leesburg where Lara Trump, who had just married Eric, kind of went. And they basically, they're selling not just conversion, but now that it's okay to vote for Trump. I was a little skeptical in our Slack. I was pointing out that the first ordinary American, I thought it was weird that almost none of them told you exactly what they did. And the woman with 2 jobs, her second job is at Turning Point USA Action. It's a job a lot of ordinary Americans have, is being a paid political activist for a guy who later was speaking at headlining the Republican convention. I'm sure that, if we dug into all the stories, you'd find a little bit more of these sorts of clues about, you don't end up at the RNC convention speaking as a true, like off the street, everyday American. You're usually pretty politically involved to get there.
And
yes,
during Linda Fornos' speech, she said, I voted for Hillary in 2016, Biden in 2020. And so there's also this theme of like the crowd absolves her of her sins. And so like the whole religious experience of it is weird, but it's like
it was
there's the conversion and the absolution of your sins.
Oh, and then on top of that, you add Trump's, near assassination, hailed by Tim Scott as, what was it, an American lion, I think was the exact words, and the spirituality behind that presentation too. And A.B, I take your point. Tim and I thought that he looked not bored, but almost somber in a way, and maybe that was the effect of his boredom. But it's something like he had gone through a traumatic experience, obviously, and then 2 days later was sort of in front of these adoring people and being called sort of a messianic figure. It almost seemed like he was overwhelmed by it in a very un-Trumpian way, and that struck me as well.
I don't know. I saw him genuinely smile at people. I mean, he doesn't smile a lot. I saw him smile several times because he was really basking in the adoration, and that's what he craves. That's the most important thing to him. And I don't know. I'm not going to say anything negative about Trump. I just will see later this week if a changed man appears.
Well, that's what I want. I'm kind of curious, is like, what do we expect from him, right? We've been told this is a unity convention. Obviously, no one really believes it's going to be the complete theme. I don't really know what to expect from Trump when he does speak on Thursday. I would like some predictions from the crew here, if we can get a few.
I don't know, Joe, do you buy it? He's going to be kumbaya.
I don't know. Maybe. I think the unity that they're talking about and that we've heard about is not a unity of the country. It is a unity of the party. That's what it's felt like in the past 24 hours, at least.
I think it's a unity on Trump's terms, right? Stop the prosecutions of me. Like, we need to unify now, like, leave me alone, basically, and that's the unity. Is like, stop attacking me, and that's not going to happen.
Can I take it a little bit darker than that? I think he's going to suggest that, like, if you don't give him the fealty, i.e., unity, worse things are going to come. I think it's going to come with a threat, an implicit threat that if you guys don't stop the, I'm not going to even give like quotes to the kinds of nicknames that he has for the various prosecutions, but if X, then Y. It isn't going to be a kumbaya, and it's not even going to be toned down. I mean, maybe I know a listener said that they were on 150 milligrams or something of weed earlier. Maybe he'll be drugged up a little bit, like to not be as aggressive. But I just don't see it, and I think that there's always a price with Trump. There's nothing ever offered for free. So if he's offering unity, it comes with a cost, and he's going to make it very clear what that cost will be, and it's going to basically be a threat. That's my prediction.
What do you think, A.B.?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that he had this dramatic interview with Selena Zito where he said, "I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead," and he's had a profound experience. There's no question. I just doubt that he's going to be mellowed, that we're going to see a different person. I doubt that he'll be magnanimous. I'll believe it. I will believe it when I see it, but I just doubt it. And I mentioned earlier his bleat on Truth Social. It was sort of back to the same thing: accusatory lying, witch hunts, the Biden administration coming after him. I think Jim's right. He's probably going to. I think also he's caught up in a moment where everyone is telling him that this was providential and that he was chosen by God to survive. He put it in his own tweet on Sunday morning that it was an act of God that spared him, that spared him from the unthinkable. So he was chosen to survive. The man who perished behind him was not. Lee Greenwood comes out, makes the same kind of reference before he sings. And people are swaying, and there's very much, as Joe mentioned before, there's this like very spiritual vibe to it, and people feel that he's chosen, and I think he's fully bought into it now more than ever.
Right. Well, that's what was getting me.
Cynical, but now he's like, he's into it. So I don't know that it'll mellow him. I think it will. I mean, I think he's very confident, but I don't know where that takes us. Again, it'd be hard after watching someone who really, really has been sadistic and reveled in cruelty. It'll be hard to imagine that he, just becomes a different person and wants to reach beyond that hall, as Joe said, to unify the country instead of just his party.
Yeah, I just can't get over the vibes that you're underscoring here. The providential, the sort of raising him up as an American lion, the spirituality of this, the conversion elements of it. I mean, it really was and Joe, you were right. What were we talking about as a storyline before this? The secular GOP? Because heading into this, we were going to do the secular GOP, but
there was one religious leader on the speaker docket before the assassination attempt. So,
right. Which it's incredibly rare, right? Like usually these conventions are infused. The Republican one is infused with evangelical leaders, but not this one. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead. Talk about.
I was just saying how, like, prior to the assassination attempt, the speakers that were slated to sing, there was the head of the Republican Jewish Coalition, which is more of a political position. It's not a religious leader. And then there was Franklin Graham. And then there were a couple other like quasi-faith leaders, but they were more just political leaders like Tony Perkins. And so it was like this the theme was that there were more people like frat bros and Amber Rose and, Tucker, instead of actual like religious leaders like they like. And so but again, like it shows how quickly this modern GOP adapts and pivots when something very opportunistic gets in their lap.
Yeah. To that point, Charlie Kirk, is he not a faith leader?
Charlie Kirk is a leader of a youth group that primarily makes content for boomers.
Right, but remember when he partnered with Falwell for the Falkirk Center? and then he had the fall from grace. I think that, we have seen a secularization where a lot of these folks, they're in disorganized evangelical churches. They find their kind of national institutionalized religion through groups like Turning Point USA and related groups, Turning Point Action. But I think that was an astute point Sam made.
Well, it's just the 180-degree turn from what Joe observed 4 days ago. We were set to write a piece on this, right? We were going to be like, this is the secular GOP coming to fruition, because the lineup was just completely devoid of prominent religious figures, minus Franklin Graham. And then you have the attempted assassination on Saturday, and then moment after moment tonight, where it's not like, other than Lee Greenwood, it wasn't totally in your face, but it was just the underpinning of much of the programming that A.B. was talking about, where it became almost sort of like not a religious experience, but it felt like we were watching something happening that was meant to feel like a religious experience. That sound right?
Kind of like a revival, Billy Graham.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, that was not planned, obviously, but it became the programming because of what happened. I want to sort of wrap up with a sort of larger question, because we were talking about this earlier. We'll go around the horn here, but this wasn't the only event that happened tonight. Biden sat down with Lester Holt for an interview tonight in what is a continued attempt to sort of defibrillate his campaign and do these big interviews and some of these campaign stops. And obviously he's got his convention coming up in a month, if he still makes it as the candidate to that convention. The contrast, though, I feel like, just once again, there's not much he said on Lester Holt, for those who didn't watch, that would give you an indication he's got the capacity to make up ground that he needs to make up. And A.B., I don't know if you got to see much of the interview, if we were able to take a peek at any of it, but talk a bit about sort of the two events that happened tonight, the split screen that we're watching.
Right. So I did not get to see all of it. I've just seen clips of it. I'm filing something in the morning on all of this after I finish the whole interview. Every answer of Joe Biden's is focused on himself and his past, with a party that is looking at polling data, knowing that they're about to completely tank and lose everything. And they don't, they can't break through with him. Lester Holt asked, who do you consult about these matters? He said, myself.
Right.
And he is as out of it as ever. He is buoyed by these events where he goes, and they, as I referred to earlier, they set up a real nice one for him in Detroit. He felt very loved. He thinks that is the way, that it's like Trump, the way he feels at a rally. Of course he couldn't lose the 2020 election because he has big rallies. And so Biden told Lester Holt that he's done 22 live events with thousands of people since the debate, and he's proven his capacity and that he's in control of his faculties. And he just can't conceive of the idea that the polling shows that Americans believe that he cannot serve out another 4 years. So it's a very live story. The party has settled into a quiet post attempted assassination of former President Trump for a matter of days, but it will not go away.
Yeah, Jim, what do you make of it?
I wasn't able to watch the speech. I did catch an excerpt of the one that we were talking about, the kind of YouTuber interview that he did.
Yeah.
That wasn't so good. I don't really like this sort of I alone can fix it sort of mentality that A.B. was referring to. I'm going to watch the interview when we get off here. But he also did that with George Stephanopoulos. And, the people who voted for him know that he has good instincts. I think they're looking for other answers on, Joe's Catholic. Why didn't he say, I talked to my priest. He's a pretty spiritual guy. But I just do it myself. We all need to rely on other people. But you think back to the 2020 campaign when the initial sorts of doubts about his, kind of fitness, given his age, were being drumbeat by Republicans. He would just sit there and answer questions until every reporter asked questions. And, you know, he has done some events. He's had some very good, his speech in the Oval Office after the assassination attempt was really, really good, I thought. But he's not doing what he did in 2020. And, you know, I think people notice that change, and it's not good for him.
And Joe, close us out here. What is the vibe like among convention goers? Are they even sweating Biden at all, or is it just assumed that?
No,
this guy's back?
I mean, it makes sense because it's convention week, obviously, but like they are full steam ahead. They know that they have the feeling that they're preparing for a landslide. And, you know, reporting shows that's true, that like the Trump campaign is like, if Biden sticks in this thing, we're going to crush him, because he was ahead and now he's even more ahead. And then there's an optimism too among like the down ballot candidates, because prior to this, the down ballot candidates in the swing states were running slightly ahead of Biden. But if Biden goes that far down, he can drag them down. And then they start losing these races that they probably should have won. I mean, you saw today Biden down 7 in Arizona. That could be enough to drag Carrie Lake over the finish line.
Right.
You know, in a race that everyone thought, oh, she was the worst investment for Republicans this cycle. There's now glimmers of optimism there.
Yeah. It's pretty bleak on the Democratic side. AB, do you want to add anything? Seems like you're
No, I agree, because what people have been noticing for months before the debate was the delta between the way that Gallego and Tammy Baldwin and Bob Casey and all these Democratic candidates were polling compared to Biden. And so it was like very clear that the not red state Democrats, Tester and in Montana and Sherrod Brown in Ohio, but everyone else in these swing states, they were polling way above Biden. It was clearly a Biden problem. And then the debate came. And so
we saw it today in some polling too, where it's like Bob Casey's up like 11, but Biden's down 3. And you're like, oh my God, how can that even happen?
But Joe makes the point, right? And that's what people are warning about Biden, that when they're looking at the data, they're looking at the purpling of Minnesota, New Mexico, New Hampshire, and Virginia. And they're saying, wow, this could save a candidate whose poll is as weak as Carrie Lake. It can push and coattail weak Republican candidates who are now behind Democrats in those Senate races. And anyway, Democrats are very well aware this is the House and the Senate and not just the White House. It would be a wipeout.
We'll see how this plays out in the next couple of days. We'll see how it plays out at the convention over the next couple of days. Let me make a closing plea to the people who are in the comments section. We value your feedback. How can we make this better experience for you guys? Let us know. Drop us a line, an email. We're going to be doing this tomorrow night. We're going to be doing this Wednesday night. We're going to be doing this Thursday night. So help us make it better for you. And tune in tomorrow. We'll give you a time shortly. But thank you for joining us. And thank you, Joe, Jim, and AB for offering your thoughts on this stuff too. Appreciate it. All right. Take care, guys. One night in the books.